Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, sponsored by Jaka Coaching, where you can now save 20% off of our WSOP prep course using the promo code TPE. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am your host here in safe, socialist New York City. Happy, as always, to be bringing you yet another episode of the world's longest-running poker strategy podcast. Great feedback on last week's episode. I think you guys really like hearing about some of the things I'm doing to prepare for the upcoming summer of poker. I used to say I'm going out to Vegas for the World Series of Poker, but now as I look at my schedule and a full half of the events that I'm planning on playing are not even at the Paris, Horseshoe, whatever, I can't really say with accuracy that I'm going for the WSOP. I'm going for all the poker action in Las Vegas, and I really can't wait. This week we're going to continue our review of the 2025 WSOP Main Event. It really helps me kind of prep for this year's edition of the world's most important poker tournament by watching the coverage from last year. And I picked out a few really good hands to go over in the coming weeks as we get closer and closer to our arrival in Sin City. The visualization that we discussed before on the podcast is really gearing up as well. I've been picturing all the different things that could potentially happen. And one thing that bothers me a lot at the table is when there are people being very loud. I know I've talked about this a lot here on the podcast. Just kind of general obnoxious behavior can sort of get under my skin, which really makes me wonder about poker in the future in a world where they wouldn't allow headphones at the table. There have been some conversations going on Twitter, where you can follow me, by the way, at Clayton Comic on Twitter. People have been talking there about various security concerns, things like meta glasses and updated versions of that would be very difficult to detect or prevent from reading the cards and giving the player information. You know, with AI kind of taking over so many parts of the world, of course it's going to continue to infiltrate the game we all love as well. But yeah, if they take away my headphones, I think I would be pretty unhappy. In fact, if I knew for a fact that one player at my table was using his headphones to cheat and everybody else was not, I would probably say it's worth it for me to be allowed to have my headphones in and let that guy cheat, even though maybe that's crazy. That's how important they are to me. Now, those of you who have played with me live before, you know that I don't always wear my headphones. Many times I'm in a social mood. I want to hang out with people, maybe talk about stand-up comedy or traveling or whatever else people like to discuss at the table. That's not why I 3-bet ace-5 suited or something. But I guess for me, it's really just, I like having the option of using those headphones in the event I'm at a loud, obnoxious table, such as I had on day 3 of the WPT Venetian last year. People yelling and screaming at each other and bragging about who can spin the cards like a helicopter when they fold. It's not really my cup of tea, and I'd rather just tune that out with some nice classical music or maybe Guns N' Roses. Anyway, another thing I'm doing to prep for the upcoming summer of poker, kind of taking care of things at home. You know, I'm paying some bills ahead of time. I'm setting things up so that it all happens automatically when I'm out there. I just want as few distractions as possible. I don't want to get a phone call from like the electric company saying I haven't paid my power bill in 2 months when I'm at, you know, day 6 of the main event or something. So I'm trying to get all this stuff ducks in a row, if you will, and that's been good. I've also been playing a lot more online poker than usual, trying to get as many reps in and practice some of the concepts that I've been learning. Sometimes I stream my online poker, and you can watch me on twitch.tv/ClaytonComic, absolutely free. A follow is free. I do have the option of subscribing to my channel, and I'm probably going to be doing some giveaways for my subscribers this summer, maybe even a little piece of some of my bracelet events that I'm going to be playing both online and live. So if you are so inclined, give me a follow at twitch.tv/ClaytonComic. Other things I'm doing these days, I'm working out almost every day, trying to take care of my body, doing some meditation and things like that to keep myself calm and prepare for the stress that is going to inevitably hit around day 5 or possibly even day 1 of the summer, depending on how things go. Obviously doing a ton of study, and lately I've been using Jaka Coaching. As I already mentioned, they are a sponsor of this podcast. I'm so happy that we have this partnership with them. I think Faraz is one of the best players of all time, but he's also an incredible teacher, and he's got something called the WSOP prep course, which is like 80% of everything you would need to know in order to beat 90% of the fields in some of these tournaments, and it's delivered in soundbite format. We're talking 15, 20-minute videos that will hammer home the most important concepts. It's explained extremely clearly in an easy-to-follow curriculum-style format. It's like start here, and once you've done that, go here, and then once you've learned about this, you're ready for that. And you can, if you're more advanced, you can skip ahead to the stuff that Faraz is actually studying. His coach is the great Thomas Boivin, who is just an absolute crusher. I mean, I already mentioned he's coaching Faraz Jaka. So what else do you need to know? And you can really see some high-level poker strategy between the two of those guys. But yeah, I'm at the point right now where I'm going through the Find Your Leaks series, just trying to see what some of your leaks are. And for me, it turns out that one of my biggest leaks is I call too much in multi-way pots when I'm in the big blind. I fall into this trap sometimes where I'm like, well, I have a junk hand, but because 5 people have called a min raise, I'm getting this great price, so I'm just going to go ahead and call and see a flop with my junk hand. And it turns out I should have folded that hand already, and then I get myself into all kinds of trouble after the flop from out of position with a junk hand and 5 opponents. It's just a recipe for disaster. So that's one leak that I've been plugging of late. But I really love this website, and you guys can get a 7-day free trial and 20% off your subscription by visiting my affiliate link, jaka.poker/TPE. Try it now for free, jaka.poker/TPE. All right, well, it's time to review last week's strategy hand from the WSOP Main Event 2025, and I want to check the lines that the players took using a solver. Now, my solver of choice is, of course, GTO Wizard. I like it because it's easy to use for non-techies like me. Now, this hand comes from day 5, you might recall from last week's episode, about 400 players remaining, and the blinds were 10K and 25K with a 25K big blind ante. And Esther Taylor, Ite, opens from the hijack to 50,000 off of a stack of 785,000, so about 31 big blinds. And she's got the ace of clubs, 6 of clubs, and Brian Arbaugh defends in the big blind with king of spades, jack of hearts, and he's got Ite covered by about 300,000, so the effective stack is 31 big blinds. And you guys may recall I said last week that maybe the solver is going to want to 3-bet with this king-jack offsuit some of the time, and sure enough, the wizard does mix in a 3-bet, but when it does, it's a 30 big blind shove. 3% of the time, we're just supposed to stick it in from the big blind with King Jack offsuit. The rest of the time, it's a pure call. So let's just call it a pure call. I mean, I don't know how many of us are actually going to do that, especially in the main event. I can't imagine a tournament like this just putting in 30 bigs here facing a hijack open from the big blind. But it is Wizard approved if you want to try it. Anyway, with 135 in the pot, the flop comes Jack of clubs, 5 of clubs, deuce of clubs, Jack 5 deuce, all clubs. And Brian checks. Esther bets 30K into 135K. And now Brian makes the call. And I remember last week saying that maybe we should check raise this. Some of the time we've got top pair, which is kind of vulnerable, but it's probably the best hand on this flop. Never mind, we're drawing practically dead against a flush, which is what Esther had. But yeah, on the flop, Brian should always check to the raiser, and the solver loves Ite's sizing here, just a little bit more than one big blind bet. And sure, the Wizard mixes in a few other sizing options here, but really liking the 1.1 BB and other small sizes as well. King Jack in this spot actually does a cute little check raise about 35% of the time. So I'm kind of patting myself on the back for spotting that last week. But we actually do want to call, as Brian did, 65% of the time. And now with 195 in the middle, the turn came the 4 of hearts, and Hero checked again. Esther bet 90K, so right about half the pot here. And Brian decided to call once more. I think if I don't check raise on the flop, I wanted to check raise on the turn. But let's hear what the Wizard thinks about all of this. Actually, Hero's supposed to lead out some of the time, so the check call lead play is viable here, for protection, but only about a 9% frequency there. So checking inflow 91% of the time. And then in Esther's shoes, the hijack checks back with the nuts 5% of the time and bets either 1/3 of the pot or 2/3 of the pot the rest of the time. Ite was right in the middle with her half pot bet, which I don't think could possibly be that big a mistake either. And Hero should now check raise about half the time versus that smaller sizing, the 1/3 pot. And then obviously we're going to check raise a little less often versus the larger sizing. So we're going to check raise somewhat less than half the time facing a half pot bet. And the rest of the time just call like Brian did. And now with 375 in the middle of the river comes the 10 of hearts, and Hero checked once more. Esther overbet shove for almost 1.8 times the pot. Well, actually, she left one chip behind, but effectively she went all in. So let's see. And then Brian made the call. So let's see what the solver thinks about all of this. On this river, Brian is supposed to lead less than 3% of the time. So effectively, it's a pure check here. And I can see why. It's because there are no more cards to come. So if Esther doesn't have a flush yet, we don't really need to protect our top pair against her range. But maybe we can get a little value from like a worse jack or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's hardly ever the move once we get to this point. And Ite basically always shoves. She's got the nuts. We're supposed to overbet shove with the nuts on the river a lot. And then Hero, Brian, he's got a call about half the time and fold the rest. So kind of indifferent between calling and folding, and then it would just be sort of read dependent, I guess. I think in Brian's shoes, if I did not have a read on Esther, I would just fold my hand, live to fight another day. It's so unlikely that somebody is risking her whole tournament late on day 5, but if there's anyone that's capable of doing it, Esther is the caliber of player that can really have that bare ace of clubs. And I think Brian may have been thinking about that, and also that he's pretty close to the top of his range. If you think about all the hands that might play the flop and turn the way Brian did, check, call, there are quite a few that are worse than King Jack offsuit. Anyway, if you guys want to give this program a try, I think you'll really like it. Faraz uses it all the time in his coaching videos. I like to use it to test my lines and to just fool around and figure out how the robot overlords want us to play poker. I've got a great deal for you. You can get 24 hours unlimited access, and then when you're ready to buy, you'll save 10% just because you use my special affiliate link, which is gtowizard.com/p/TPE. All right, let's do one more hand from last year's main event. Let's move on to day 7. In this hand, there are 177 players remaining in the entire tournament out of the 9,000 plus who entered. It's late on day 7. The blinds are 30K, 60K with a 60K big blind ante. And a German player by the name of Sebastian Schulze opened from the hijack to 125K off of a stack of 12 million. So this guy is doing great. He's got 200 big blinds late on day 7. What does that feel like? You can ask me, I know. So he opens to 125, so just one little chip above the min raise here from the hijack. The small blind is a player from Sweden named Munir Taigio, and he's got the ace of spades, jack of clubs, and he has 5.6 million in his stack. So he's also doing great. Almost 100 big blinds there. We're going to play this hand from the perspective of Munir. Now, I would normally want to 3-bet here. I mean, the opening range from the hijack is about 30% of all hands, and ace jack is like in the top 10% of all hands. So I think this is a pretty good hand to 3-bet with. We're deep enough. We can, maneuver post flop and figure things out. I think maybe just a 4x, make it like 500,000. Normally we want to 3-bet about 3 times the open, but in this spot I would do 4 because I'm out of position, and then I could take control of the hand. But Munir decides to just call, and honestly, I think it's normal for players to 3-bet a little bit less frequently when they make it this deep into this tournament. There's so much value in laddering up, and maybe in some cases they believe that playing a more passive style reduces their variance, but especially from the small blind, I'm not convinced that that is true. But he does just flat here from the small blind, and then the big blind, a player named Jung, calls with 1.2 million. So 3 players are going to see the flop. Hero in the small blind with ace jack offsuit, and the flop comes jack of spades, 10 of diamonds, 6 of clubs. So jack, 10, 6, rainbow. Hero with the ace of spades, jack of clubs. Doesn't look like flush considerations will enter. We've got top pair, top kicker, and lots of chips. There's 435 in the middle, and the action is on hero. And Munir decides to check. I like this play here. I think when we're out of position, we often want to play more passively with our good and bad hands alike. So check to the razor. The big blind also checks. And now Schulze bets 270 into 435. A pretty chunky sizing here from the German, about 60% of the pot. I think I would just call in this situation. Now that we've seen the flop, maybe just check call and plan on doing that on a lot of runouts as long as the sizing is, not ridiculous. So yeah, I would call, and it looks like Mr. Munir decided to also call. The big blind folded, so now we are heads up. We are out of position with ace jack offsuit. With 975,000 in the middle, the turn comes the 4 of spades. So our board is now jack of spades, 10 of diamonds, 6 of clubs, 4 of spades. Hero with the ace of spades, jack of clubs. And I think that ace of spades is worth thinking about now. And the action is on hero. I wonder if this could be a spot for a check call lead like we saw in the previous hand we discussed today. I don't know. I guess if I'm playing this way all along, I don't really have a lot of lead outs in my range. Maybe if I had taken some type of aggressive action prior to this moment, maybe I would feel more comfortable leading here. But, I'm going to slow play some hands this way, so we might as well have ace-jack in that range and just continue to slow play it and see if the German wants to keep betting. So I would check, and that's what Munir did as well, checking. And now Schultze bets 960 into 975. So almost a pot-sized bet here on 4th Street. And guys, this German guy, he's got 200 big blinds. He's tangling with a player who has 100 big blinds at a table where several players have 30 big blinds or less. I just don't know whether ace-jack is doing great against the range that bets this sizing here on the turn, especially because we've got the ace of spades. It's unlikely that Sebastian Schultze has picked up a flush draw on this card because we've got that ace of spades. Maybe he's got king, queen of spades. That's one hand I could definitely see playing this way. You flop that open-ender, and then you pick up even more outs on the turn. Maybe, a really big bet on the turn makes sense. I just, I really don't like this situation, but I don't think we can really fold top pair, top kicker, even for a bet of this sizing. I think we need to hang in there, guys, and make the call, and that is exactly what Munir did as well. And now we've got a big pot, 2.9 million in the middle, Hero with 4.4 million behind still, and the river comes the 5 of spades for a final board of jack of spades, 10 of diamonds, 6 of clubs, 4 of spades, 5 of spades. So the 7-8 got there, and of course the backdoor spade draw got there. So guys, what do you want to do now? Is now the time for us to try to steal this pot away from the German? Do you want to lead out on this river? I personally do not. I think that the pot is way too big. Schultze has shown so much strength throughout the hand, raising and betting a healthy amount at every possible turn. I'm just more worried that ace-jack is beaten, and if it is, I don't really think we can get too many better hands to fold unless maybe we overbet shove ourselves. Like I said, we've got about 1.5 times the pot remaining. But trust me, guys, when you're sitting there on day 7 of the main event, it's very hard to overbet shove as a bluff just because you've got the ace of spades blocker against a German pro who's got us well covered and has shown so much strength throughout the hand. If you can do it, maybe you have the heart of the champion and the eye of the tiger and all of that, but sometimes you're going to run into a big hand that's not going anywhere. And then you're just going to feel like an idiot when you just threw away 100 big blinds late on day 7 of the WSOP main. So I think on balance, we should just check, which is what Mr. Taiju of Sweden does. And then Villain continues with a tremendous show of strength, betting 1.8 million into the 2.9 million pot. So a 2/3 pot bet here on the end. And the action is back on Munir. And I don't know. I mean, this is just such a big pot now, and it's a big bet, and I've only got one pair. It's not the kind of hand I really want to play such a big pot with. I'm sure that we're supposed to call a lot with a jack in this situation, especially when we have the ace of spades as well. But I don't know. To me, it feels like it's no good. However, Munir does make the call, and he gets the bad news that the German had pocket kings with no spade, and he got maximum value for his overpair and built up quite a huge stack late on day 7 of the World Series of Poker main event. And that'll do it for for this episode. Want to give a shout out and a thank you to everyone who has clicked subscribe on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ClaytonComic. That's something you can do right now that really helps the channel out so much. And for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, with special thanks to our generous sponsor, JockaCoaching.com, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart.